Prokar, having achieved so much, doing so much work, having good recognition now, you now decided to join British Journal of Urology as editor-in-chief. Previously, Hugh Whitfield, and after that, our good friend John Fitzpatrick, such a wonderful guy, had taken BJUI at a very different level. You joined with an entirely new team. You had new ideas, and you may remember that I said once to you that you made BJUI really a colorful. We started seeing wonderful sort of, the front pages, the attractive information. Previously, it was something like a green journal, what he used to call. And then subsequently, it just came along with a very, very colorful journal with a lot of new and innovative ideas. What I liked of you, Prokar, and I don't mince any word, that you took young generation with you. You encouraged the younger generation. There was a mixed blend between the experience and younger generation. I can see Scott Miller there. And the result was you could take the BJUI at a very higher level, and the impact factor was something we really witnessed. Declan Murphy, our good friend in Australia, a renowned urological oncologist, he took the BJUI so seriously, and I could see that he could propagate the BJUI and articles on something like social media. So wonderful leadership qualities, Prokar, when you allow the younger generation and the people who have given responsibilities to blossom and take the BJUI to different level. Reviewers across the globe are never sort of given a significant credit and a respect, but this is something you started, and I was very lucky that I could get one award during the BJUI, and I'm sure you also got one. When you put your pen down, or I would say that not the knife down as such, at the end of stint of 2 terms for BJUI editor, I still remember vividly the wonderful evening we had. And each and everyone I could remember who was involved in the BJUI sort of a journey was very much talking high about your leadership quality and how sort of you encourage everyone to take the BJUI to the level what it is today. I also asked you, and this is going to be my next question, what is next after BJUI? But before that, Prokar, tell me, how did you decide to BJUI? How it was easy or difficult to follow in the footsteps of Hugh Whitfield and John Fitzpatrick? And how did you improve the impact factor of the BJUI? Prokar.
So I was the 10th editor-in-chief of a 90-year-old journal, which started its life as the British Journal of Urology, and thanks to Hugh Whitfield, went to British Journal of Urology International. And then the following editor was the late John Fitzpatrick, the famous John Fitzpatrick, again, one of my heroes, sadly passed away. I remember being interviewed for this, Makarand, and what you really want to know is the backstory. So I'll tell it to you as it happened. I had the bold idea that I wanted to make it the most read surgical journal on the web. I wanted to double its impact factor and get it to over 5. And it is now, thanks to the wonderful team that we brought together, the young team, as you said, and we had you in that team. So thank you so much. I wanted to get the impact factor up above 5, and it currently stands at 5.5, as you know. So this is very, very significant. It's more than double of where it was when we started. And then I wanted to publish only the best quality articles. So quality was very high on my agenda, but it had to be quality without boundaries. So those were the three things that we set out as a mission statement. So I went to this interview, and a number of famous urologists at the time were also being interviewed. Over 12 people applied for this. And this was, at the time, probably one of the most prestigious jobs in our field. And I knew people would have been presenting from their usual laptops and so on, and show slides. And I turned up completely mobile with an iPad in hand, which became my signature statement. and a completely digital vision. I had worked very hard at the Apple shop in Regent's Street, which you will be very familiar with, because I really bonded with the Apple vision of mobile technology. And, I had one of the gurus help me prepare this amazing slides, no PowerPoint. This was completely different experience with flying in videos. And, so I knew that it wouldn't just be the trustees who would be there, but experts in publishing, some of the best academics, some of the best surgeons. So I gave them a vision where I completely threw away the paper journal almost. I chided them, saying the website was too crowded and no one was visiting it. And it had really had to come to the next generation, to the modern level. And at the time, no one was doing it. This was not just the BJUI, no one was doing it. And I said, look, I'm going to bring in, for the first time, associate editors in social media, which was Declan Murphy, on the web, which was Matthew Bultitude, for impact and innovation, people like Vincenzo Ficara, Ben Chalakam, John Davis, who is now the editor of BJUI Compass, the open access journal. And I also brought in Tet Yap, my colleague, as the editor for design. You mentioned the designs. Tet runs a very successful magazine called the Glass Magazine, and some of the editorials were completely changing the design. We featured the article of the week and article of the month, and the article of the month would come from a city or a town, and that city would feature on the front cover with a little esca. I mean, no one was doing this. This is way out. And the whole idea was curiosity. I knew that people, busy surgeons, were not reading anything. So to attract them with curiosity, so that I said, even if once a year they open the journal once or read it even better on their iPad once because they're curious about what Dasgupta and the team are doing, I would have made my point, because people were not reading it. And we dropped the acceptance rate, unfortunately, from nearly 40% to 10%, which came as a shock to many people. But I think the legacy remains. We brought in blogs. No one was doing this. We really pioneered the whole social media place. Yeah, other journals like Science and JAMA took it on. Yeah, now you can get JAMA podcast. The BJUI was doing that before anyone else. So listen, we had fun, didn't we? We had such a lot of fun. And one of my sad memories is not being able to hand over to Freddie Hamdi properly. And you showed slides where because the virus was absolutely raging by this time, I had to hand over to Freddie, to Nicola Quinen, who was at the time the CEO of the charity, to Krishna Setia, who was the chairman of the charity, and Scott Miller, of course, the evergreen Scott Miller, who continues as managing editor. And then we had this wonderful bye-bye on Zoom. Looking back, better than not meeting at all. But I wish I could have done that properly with Freddie. But he's going to take the journal different places. Again, a new team has come in. And I'm really very proud of what we did. Of course, there were some tragedies. We lost John Fitzpatrick. His blog was the most read and most commented. We lost Bill Steers, my friend and the editor-in-chief of the Journal of Urology. And, we had so many losses. Bill Henry passed away. And, of course, you make a few mistakes because you have something on social media which offends people. But you become stronger as a result, because you have not done it deliberately. And as long as you're true to yourself and true to quality, and with the hand on heart, I can say that for nearly a decade, every single day I did something for the BJUI, every single day. Traveled the world, being the ambassador, made wonderful friends like you. We really were a beacon for Indian urologists, because it was not just serving British urology, it had 10 organizations that it was serving, and the USI, Urological Society of India, was one of those. So I had the most wonderful time, and it will remain the most creative period of my career. But what next? So I remember at the time, Tim O'Brien, my colleague, as usual, he asked me to give my inaugural lecture when I got my professorship in 2008. And then as I was exiting the BJUI, he said, now the going away lecture, please. So there it was, to my own team, who of course adore what you're doing, but are also critical of what you do. And I remember Louisa Fleur, one of my friends, senior nurses, who I knew from the Institute of Urology, now is in Guy's, saying, Prokar, exactly that question, what is the plan? And I said to her quite honestly, because that's exactly what it was, I said, the plan, Louisa, is there is no plan. The plan is there is no plan. That came as a bit of a shock to everybody, but I was seriously thinking, I've done it all, I've had a great time, and maybe this is the time to just fade away quietly, because I'm not interested in myself. I'd already promoted people to do well, and I thought this was a good time to go out on top. And then suddenly, lo and behold, the King's Health Partners Professor of Surgery, the big job came up, and I was encouraged to apply, and somehow managed to convince the panel that I was the man for the job. So I have unfortunately gone from having no plan to being even more busy and making new plans of how to make academic surgery at King's Health Partners be successful. And my tagline now is be the best. And it'll take some time, but we are certainly going to give it a go and try to be the best.
Wonderful. Basically, I think John Fitzpatrick was a very witty person, excellent friend of mine as well, like you are. And you know, the BJU came subsequently changed to BJUI International.
Yeah.
So one of the interaction I asked John, so what is this changeover now from BJU to BJUI? He said, BJU and I decide how the journal is going to shape. And I think in the serious matter, he said, it's called as BJU International, but it is I who's going to decide in how the changes are. The joke apart, years later, I was part of his team as well. And years later, when we met, I again congratulated John for doing a wonderful job. And he said, John, now you're going to sort of, hand it over to Prokar Dasgupta, one good friend of mine. And he said, well, he's a very young prospect. I'm sure he's going to do the good job. And what we're going to do is support him. And that's why BJ, you and I support the BJUI. That's what his words. Just remember, so it was a great John Fitzpatrick. I just miss him quite a lot. Unfortunately, I still remember I talked to him just the day he passed away. A very, very wonderful guy. Now, obviously, the honors came to your way, the fellowship of King's College London and St. Peter's Medal. What a great show. Wonderful. And I think you truly deserve that. And it was given to you in last year or year before at the BAUS meeting.